Well, hey everyone. I'm glad y'all made it to this wonderful chat. It was very, very busy today. I was having to just watch from a distance as I was setting up some things. We're here with Brian Lakatos, and he's from Miami Valley School in Dayton, Ohio, and he is the Technology and Innovation Specialist, I do believe, or Director of Technology and Innovation. Is that correct, Brian?
That's it. That's me.
And
I do everything there. Yes.
you are technology and innovation. That's a lot on one person's plate. So
Yeah.
how do you juggle all that? How do you do that?
Well, I try not to be the. I try not to use all the technology and do all the innovation. That's step one. Get other people. Yeah.
Delegate, huh?
Delegate. Step one. Delegate. Exactly right.
Yeah, that's cool. And so you were telling me off right before that you have to take care of all the maintenance type stuff also. So how does that work?
Yeah. Slowly. No. It's yeah. We're a small school. We're kind of the only school with our approach to things in Dayton, and the making everything work part took a few years to get into it. I'm now in I guess my seventh year in this
Mhm.
position, and once though 3 or 4 years into it, things just started working because you get the maintenance down, you get the right hardware in
Yeah.
the spot, you get everything configured the way it ought to be. Then it's just okay. What are you going to do with it? And really, the knock on my desk is kind of wood. Everything's working. I left school today; it was working. Hopefully, it'll be working when I get there tomorrow morning. Um, but the fun part is the conversations of what do you do with it, and it's such a great tool to turn on learning and empathy and project-based everything, and it's hard to do that work nowadays without those tools.
Right. And you mentioned something about that it's Miami Valley? Is that what the school
Yeah,
is name?
the Miami Valley School. Yeah.
So you said that it was a kind of a different. They do things a little differently there. Describe how are they different than what you think your neighbor schools maybe?
Yeah, well, we're the only non-public and non-religious oriented school. The term we use is independent school instead of private school.
Yeah.
But really, we are focused on we're college prep on one side. That's our title. That's our product we're selling. But we are focused on the student. We try to get the students' passions identified and give them chances to grow and learn in that context of what they're excited about. I deal a lot with students in the upper school, high school, 9 through 12, and that's very much about, as it is in most places, but figuring out, letting them figure out what kind of responsibilities they can take, and watching the failures and lifting them up.
Yeah.
But the teachers too, though, we are all experimenting all the time, which is great.
Oh. I think that's one of the key things that I've seen differences among different, not only districts or school areas or schools buildings or even classrooms, is the level that the teacher's willing to risk in experimentation. Does that seem like it is like one of the number one criteria for being able to successfully implement something that is passion based and project based, or the different approaches that are more cutting edge? Do you
Mhm.
think that is the big X factor there?
Yeah, I think that's crucial. That's crucial. I was just having a conversation with a colleague the other day about what the students seem to prioritize in the classes, and funnily enough, it is exactly what we assess.
Hmm.
Is this going to be on the test? Is this going to be for a grade? How big of a grade is it? Like that is how they prioritize. It's our fault that they do that, but what their work, right? Um,
Right.
and we as adults in the school situation do the exact same thing. We prioritize that which we're going to be assessed on, what were our goals at the beginning, and how does our division head or whoever our boss is feel. And it was really a few years back. that we started saying, the focus of this year is going to be play and failing up and taking those risks. And we had to get all the bosses in the room, all the principals and such in the room to say, what does that look like? Let's put some language to it. And it takes a year saying that before a lot of people will risk things.
Well, I think that says a lot about your school that it took only a year. It seems like some other places
started.
Yeah, that's really good, and it's very helpful if the admin is in your corner and is speaking. To me, it seems like it helps out a lot if they're speaking the same language, and speaking the same terms as saying, we're going to be trying new things, being experimental and stuff. And I've definitely have experienced that this year with my administrator. She's been wonderful as far as want to try new things. Fun fact about me, my work at my school, and we both work in Montgomery County.
That county is huge, man.
That is mine is just a little bit south and inside of a state called Texas, and yours is slightly north in Dayton, Ohio. Do you notice? Is Dayton a place? I mean, because when I think of Dayton, I think of Wright Brothers. I think of inventors. There's a ton of inventors out of Dayton.
Yes, you know about Dayton.
And I was wondering, does that seem to leak over into the education, or do you think that was a past legend almost?
Yeah, right.
It may not be affecting the present as much, or in schools for specifics.
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I'm born and raised in Dayton, and I will wave the Dayton flag if we have one.
That's awesome.
Until the day I die. But it's, for a while there, if you go back 100 years ago, we've got, the Wright brothers. We've got NCR revolutionizing the way stores run and the economy runs. And we've got Kettering, Charles Kettering. I'm actually in a suburb called Kettering. Charles Kettering, the guy who invented the thing that makes our cars not have to need the crank anymore, right? Like, everybody loves Charles Kettering even if they don't know it. But then in the middle there, we had the crash of the inventing. Well, I don't know. It's not a crash. What? We had the businesses that came out of all the inventing. So we had NCR here, and we had Mead Paper, and we had all these big companies. And then I think if your goal was to kind of educate people for success in the Dayton area, it was entering a large established corporation. And for better or worse, some of those large corporations have left Dayton, which means the air is clear again, and we're bringing back entrepreneurship. The city is doing amazing work with, if you just Google Dayton, Ohio, and immigration or immigrants, we're doing fantastic work bringing in new viewpoints, that diversity, making pop-up shops, making it easy for people to start businesses, little shops and restaurants popping up all over the place. Just those quick fails, kind of the what's the startup culture in like Silicon Valley says, like
fail soon or fail often.
Yeah, fail early, fail often.
Yeah, that's it.
Release early, release often.
Yes.
Yeah, and that kind of an idea, which is straight up inventors. That's entrepreneurship. That's it's prototyping of design thinking. I think that spirit is coming back into Dayton in a big way.
That is awesome. And tonight we're specifically talking about empathy. And I tell you what, as crucial it is to design thinking, it seems to me as sometimes very daunting. Even though it's very, very, for me, it's like the make or break for design thinking. For me, it's what design thinking separates it from other approaches, even project-based learning or whatever you're going, even designing.
Yeah.
It seems like empathy is the and I seem like from a lot of the tweets that's the consensus across the group, that empathy is kind of one of the key elements. So do you think, all right, going beyond just defining it, empathy, what does that look like at your school and in the classrooms, as far as how do you tap into a student's knowledge base of empathy, and how do you bring them out of whatever boxes they have empathy contained in order to be a more effective designer?
Yeah, that's the $25,000 question. We're all new to design thinking and that kind of idea of focusing on the empathy and getting the connections out, maybe in an explicit way. But what I think my school has always been, this is our 50th year, by the way. Funny fact, we just celebrated our 50th anniversary last weekend.
Wow.
Yeah, and so we're founded in, I like to say, 1964 by people who didn't like the established school systems.
Wow.
It's like we call those hippies now. Hippies with college degrees. I think what the school has always been good at is focusing on making those connections. We're a small school, our classes are small, we've got a nice teacher-to-student ratio, but so you're dealing in small groups most of the time, and not that we're perfect, of course we're not, but the trying to figure out how to connect with the other people in your class, in your group, if you're working that way, in your building, in your division, across the division. That's always been the number one challenge, and I think always been a strong focus of what we do in our classrooms. I think that's why design thinking is making so much sense to some of us who are diving in this year, because it highlights that. Like you said, empathy. Without empathy, I think I can easily see the design thinking process being the normal thinking process, the how we got where we were thinking process. And it's a Grant Lichtman term, zero-based strategic thinking. It's in a way you're getting zero-based for yourself. So instead of, here I've got this idea and I fixed this problem before, which as an IT person I do all the time. It's like, oh, you can't print either. It's the same thing I've seen 75 times. Let me show you. And it's good for me to remember that this person isn't the same person who had the problem 75 times. So I have to look at it in a new way. I have to be respectful to the person and their context, empathetic to them. I'm rambling now, but that's empathy is job one, right?
Yeah, and I think you made a very good analogy with the print, fixing things as a technology, almost you're a mechanic, as opposed to actually thinking about different ways of using that technology. And we kind of talked about that before we came on the break, about how, and you mentioned this earlier about, you felt like, you said you were 7 years in. Is this your 7th year in the position?
Into the position, yeah. I was a high school Latin teacher, so I taught Latin there before I started taking over the technology.
You and Moss Pike. What is up with you smart people and Latin? I took the wrong language.
You probably took Spanish, being
I took Spanish, and then in graduate school, because I was a musicologist, I took German. But
okay.
Just reading it, I cannot speak. But man, I should have taken Latin.
There's still time. It hasn't changed any. You have not lost anything on it.
Oh, really? Okay. I thought it evolved since the last, the last couple of decades.
Right.
So in empathy, you were talking about how the design thinking approach with empathy fit your campus and with your system that you're working in right now. Did y'all have something beforehand that y'all were using an empathy component to, or was it just character-based approach to teaching empathy, or what did you have before?
Nothing explicit with a name. Our core values, we have 4 core values that we kind of, the mission of the school, to go back to a while, is challenging young people of promise to be, I may have that part wrong, I should know this, but the end part is the important part, the self-sustaining learners and compassionate global citizens. So we've always had that as our mission, and it's big letters on the wall, right? And the idea of compassionate global citizen, you have to keep learning more, self-sustaining learners, and doing good for the world. That's been our push for a while. Our 4 core values that really came out of asking everyone that we possibly could ask that was involved with the school, and then distilling them down. We didn't know, I don't think anyone who did it knew design thinking yet, but really it was a distilled kind of a stage there. Came up as integrity, celebration, grit, perseverance, and kindness. So, that came out of we came out 5 years ago, so 45 years of the school.
Wow.
That's the culture we have.
Wow, that's amazing.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Challenge is keeping that up all the time, but yeah.
Yeah. So we mainly focused on the empathy interviews. How have you? So do you go into the classrooms and help teachers with this, or do you have a class of your own that you are doing empathy interviews? How does it look with your position?
Well, the design thinking, the big design thinking push is kind of new this year. So we started in the summer with some work that we did. We're working with Grant Lichtman on kind of a long-term project, and I do have a class of with Rachel Moulton, who is our upper school principal. We redesigned our independent study course, or independent study program, a couple years ago. I'm still overseeing that, and this year we're definitely using the design thinking mindset. I'll say mindset. To design, to work within the group, so everyone shows up, all the students show up, maybe 20 students show up, all wanting to do different things, and we keep going through this process, this iteration of design thinking steps. Again, focusing on the deep DT.
Yeah.
Go Mount Vernon. Thank you for that.
Shout out to Mount Vernon.
Shout out, Bo Adams, Mary.
Woo, Mary.
Going through that iterative cycle again and again, honing down onto what should I study and what am I looking for, what's passionate, what am I passionate about. It's great to be able to bounce that across and focus on that empathy. So I focused a lot just this year and the very start of school basically. But we also have this very neat thing that we got working with Grant called Window Teams. He's written, if you read Grant's blog, he's written about actually his work at Miami Valley in creating teams of people that look at situations, the school in general, through various windows, be it curriculum or the learning environments or professional development or facilities or what have you. Leadership, there's like 7 different teams.
That's pretty awesome.
As on a large scale like that, we're using design thinking.
Window teams. I like that. I like that. We had window teams at my school growing up too, but it was I think we were in charge of cleaning the windows, which is not near as fun as your Windows team. Yours Windows team sounds like it would have benefited me more. I was never good at cleaning windows, still not. Yeah. But I like that. So you have how many different teams is this Windows team, and how many are on a team?
So the teams are right around 8 people, in the faculty and staff and admins and students and parents.
Great.
And board members. Sometimes there's some overlap in there, but yeah.
Do you try to do, like, one of the things that I noticed in design thinking is trying to have a diverse team with
right.
diverse. Is that one of the things you do when you're forming the teams up, is look for a diversity in its members?
Yeah, definitely. We wanted to make sure that everybody was at the table. It's everyone's school. It's not a top-down school. That would never fly with us. That's just not the way we do things.
That's cool.
So we want to make sure even the students are at the table to be part of doing the work. And then each of
That's
these
cool.
teams is doing the observation, and is doing the empathy interviews, and is doing as the year goes through until April. So we're just starting with it, but I'm facilitating that overall thing. It's so far I think it's been awesome. If I do say so myself.
For the people that may be watching that are not completely familiar with empathy interviews, could you give just a rundown of what an empathy interview consists of?
Sure. So the empathy interview is how in design thinking, the designer connects and learns about the experiences of the users or just people involved. The idea is, well, to use Mount Vernon's framework again, the deep DT. The empathy is the first E, the second step in DEEP, which is an acronym for discover, empathy, discover, empathize, experiment, and produce. And the empathy interview is the chance that the designer gets to figure out what makes the user or the interviewee tick. What do they care about? What are their passions? What's their story? Chris Andres from Mount Vernon said numerous times tonight in the chat about getting the story out. I think he said, the job was just to open the door to the story and just say, keep giving me more, and figure out what they need. Sometimes people say what their problem is, but I don't think it's always a problem. What's your problem?
What is your problem?
Right. Yeah, it's not always a problem. Sometimes
not the best way to open up an empathy interview, I don't think. So tell me what your problem is.
So I should not be doing that.
No, that's probably not.
What's up?
What's your problem? So whenever you're doing an empathy interview, what I love about this is the difference between an empathy interview and a mall survey. You know those mall surveys?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You would walk through the mall and do you have a moment to take a short survey? And I love the way that Chris and some others were mentioning story, because I really think as a ethnomusicology type person, the story was very important, and getting a full, complete, more broader view of a person, their context, and not only the challenge or the problem, but its context. Mm-hmm. And I think that the empathy interview is a good springboard to kind of finding out the context to get a more clear view of what the real challenge is, So
right. Yeah, like it was said many times tonight, no one actually knows what the problem is. And you brought Moss, and Moss and Maria were at Fuse this summer. I got to go to Fuse at Mount Vernon this summer as well. And big fun.
Everybody keeps on rubbing that in with me.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, I was getting pictures, missing you, Joseph, wishing you were here. And I don't understand why these people want to rub it in my face. Apparently, Brian, you're in on it also. Okay.
I somehow got invited to that part.
Well, good thing. I mean, I was, I guess, invited. I don't know. I guess, but I sure did.
Did you see the registration for Fuse, or the site for Fuse 15 is up? So.
Oh yeah, so that's up. So and everybody that's watching, y'all need to check that out. Fuse 15, the website is up. So I'm sure if you Google Fuse 15, you'll be okay. And I'll also include it in our Google Plus events thing. You know what about being a empathizing person? I see that you are a musician, or either like to prop up musical devices behind pretend.
I actually just ran out
for all the babes that are watching the Design Thinking K-12 chat, the show, which I'm sure there's some ladies watching.
Yes. Maybe.
That's pretty cool. Do you play what is that? Is that a mandolin?
Yes. So that's actually
where
my thumb lined up. So a mandolin,
Awesome.
a bass, which is my main instrument, and then the guitar.
Okay.
The mandolin I picked up because, hey, it's got 4 strings too, sort of. Got 8, but they don't count. And it's way easier to carry around than a bass and several 100 pounds of amps.
Yes.
But yeah,
That's pretty awesome.
I'm also a musician.
And do you think that helps you with the empathy part, being someone that's artistic and being in touch with an artistic side kind of helps you with empathizing with others?
Well, I haven't thought about it that way.
The correct answer is yes, because I'm a musician also, and I think it
Yes,
really
you are a professional. You're professionally trained.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
I always think that people that at least try to get in touch with the artistic side and try to. With me, it's actually observing and listening to and trying to understand music of other cultures has really opened my eyes to empathizing with others from a different cultural context.
Sure. Did you study a certain group, a certain area?
My main one was during the turn of the century, Great Britain, and its use of music of the other and its own art music.
Oh, cool.
So Savitry's, Gustav Holst's one-act opera, that kind of stuff. But empathy was definitely, I felt like, a big part of that. And we will include, and Brian, if you want to, you can send me some links to different resources that you use for focusing your empathy interviews, because I really think that that's a big part of what we try to do with DTK 12 chat, is to really give other people tools in order to do these things and be able to really focus in on if you are new to design thinking, or even if you are a veteran, a new way of looking at empathy and empathy interviews. So we'll include that in the Google Plus event, and also on the DTK 12 chat website. We have a wonderful, cool website that Trey put together, Trey Bowden.
The new one's awesome.
It looks really sharp. He did an awesome, awesome job. So kudos to you.
Very professional. Trey professional.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for joining in tonight, and it was great hearing from you. And we're going to have you on the show again, and maybe you can teach the viewers and me some Latin. So
totally. Well, the all Latin DTK 12 chat. Moss and I are leading
it.
Yeah.
Okay, that'd be awesome. And I'll be over on the side reading off the dollar bill and other coins.
That's right.
Other
pull college mottos
and college mottos and legal terms. I'll look up a legal dictionary term.
Right.
Something about that. All right. Well, thank you, Brian. And where can people find you on the Twitters?
On the Twitters, I am at Brian Lakatos. Yeah, BRYANLAKATOS.
Great, and I'll include that also in the show notes when we later on, whenever I have time to edit it. Well, Brian, thank you so much for showing up and talking to us about wonderful things you're doing over there at the Miami Valley, is that what it is?
It's the Miami Valley School, not in Florida, and not in Montgomery County. That's not in Texas.
Yes. Wow, that's a geography lesson right there. All right. Well, thank you, Brian. We're going to sign off now, and we'll catch you guys next week. We'll not be having the show probably, but we will have the DTK 12 chat going on the Twitter. So see ya.